Hi, and welcome back to Small Caps. I'm your host, Jess Furtick, and today we are hearing from Brazil-focused rare earths explorer developer, Resouro Strategic Metals. The company is a pre-IPO with a targeted ASX listing in June, so this month. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome mining veteran Chris Eager, who is also the founder, CEO, and major shareholder of this company. Welcome, Chris. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Jess. It's great to be here.
Now, Chris, for those of our small caps audience who aren't familiar with this company, given its pre-IPO, can you provide us with a brief overview of Resouro and your projects?
Okay, Resouro was listed by way of reverse takeover on the TSX-V in 2022, based on some gold projects in Mato Grosso. The company is just focused on Brazil. In 2023, we acquired the Tiros titanium and rare earths project, which is located just north of Belo Horizonte in the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil. Minas Gerais meaning general mines. It's the mining state of Brazil. So it's a very good location to be developing a project, very good infrastructure, and as we'll talk about later, an extremely exciting resource.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Chris. Now, congratulations. You've just closed your public offer, which I understand has been heavily oversubscribed. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about who's joined the register ahead of your ASX listing?
Well, we did 4 capital raisings prior to the IPO when, unfortunately, the TSX-V is going through a really rough time at the moment. There's no liquidity, no trading on the market. Very hard to raise money in Canada for a project. And also the Canadian market doesn't really understand rare earth elements. We followed what Meteoric and Brazilian Rare Earths had done. And on the back of that, we were able to garner a lot of investment interest, particularly out of Sydney and the rest of Australia. So we have Regal Funds Management, Wella, Terra Capital, a couple of more private sort of family offices. And also we haven't announced the book for this raising, but there's another 3 or 4 high-profile institutions which are going to have committed to invest. At the moment, the capital raising, we're raising 8 million Australian dollars. We're very oversubscribed on the 8 million. We have about 2 million in the bank. So coming out of the IPO, we'll have about $10 million, which is sufficient to do what we need to do in terms of the preliminary economic assessment for Tiros.
Wow, that's absolutely phenomenal, Chris. And I think such a turnaround from sort of late last year, early this year, even in terms of capital markets and difficulty for resources companies to raise capital. Interesting the point you make about the TSX and sort of the shift to moving to ASX for that reason. Now, we understand that you're an explorer developer. So what are these funds that you're raising? So the 8 million, what are they going to be used for?
Well, we've just completed 61 drill holes, and within a very short time after the listing, we're just flying a topographic survey of the central block of Tiros. The Tiros project is immense. It's an ore body which is this volcaniclastic layer which goes on for 71 kilometres, about 40 to 50 metres thick. So people can do their own numbers on the potential for tonnes there. And the big advantage of our deposit is that it's very homogeneous. So every drill hole that we drill, we get high-grade rare earth elements, and we get high-grade titanium dioxide. So the profile of every drill hole is the same. So that enables us to drill on very wide spacing, about 500 metre spacing, to get measured and indicated resources. So we've drilled 61 new drill holes over the last 6 months, and we'll put out a resource statement. The money that we've raised now will principally go into some infill drilling to do the first mineable reserve and mine plan for the PEA, and also extensive metallurgical test work. We're doing test work with a group called Altinium, CIT Senai in Belo Horizonte, which is a very well-regarded lab in Brazil, and SGS. So they're all doing a series of metallurgical test work on both the titanium dioxide and the rare earth elements. So we're doing a whole matrix of different reagents, different protocols to work out which is the best way to leach the rare earths.
Okay, so interesting, Chris. Now you've sort of answered my next question, which is, talking us through the Tiros project and also your plans for it. But I wonder if you could just briefly touch on which rare earths are you specifically looking for that you found? Which elements?
Well, the deposit is very rich in NdPr, neodymium and praseodymium, which are obviously the magnet rare earths that people are looking for. There are some heavy rare earths in the combination as well. We have byproducts of niobium, but the key differentiator with this project is that we've got what we believe and what all evidence shows is the highest grade, largest titanium dioxide project in the world. Our TiO2 grades are around 12.5% on average. And if you look at ilmenite, which is also TiO2, a good deposit's 1 or 2%. So we've got extremely high grade titanium dioxide. And I'm very excited about the titanium because there's a lot of new uses for titanium, such as lithium titanate batteries, sodium titanate batteries, titanium 3D printing, thin film titanium. So titanium, we're seeing a lot of interest. I was in Germany a couple of weeks ago speaking to industrial companies, and a huge amount of interest in new applications for titanium.
That is so interesting. I was just about to ask you about the applications for all of those for our audience, but you've just covered it. Now, so in terms of Resouro's plans for this project, you mentioned infill drilling to sort of prove up resource, and also metallurgy work or MET work. So in terms of PFS or potential DFS, what sort of timelines are we looking at there, if you could elaborate on any of that?
Okay, so we really don't need to do any more resource definition drilling. We'll do a little bit more infill drilling just to fill in a few gaps to lift the category into measured and indicated. But as I was saying, it's a very homogeneous deposit, and it comes to surface in many areas. So you're only drilling 50 or 60 meter holes maximum. So it's very quick and cheap to drill using RC and even auger. So there's a little bit more drilling. We've stepped out 35 kilometers to the south, and we're getting the same thicknesses and grades 35 kilometers away, and 15 kilometers to the north, and we're still getting the same thicknesses. So what we're going to do is concentrate on doing a preliminary economic assessment on the Tiros Central Block. But in the meantime, we've got 250 square kilometers that all has this Capocecchi formation in it. So we'll do some scout drilling in various other areas. But to date, what we found is that the Capocecchi material is almost exactly the same over that 71 kilometers. So we'll just focus on taking the central block through PEA and PFS this year.
Fantastic, Chris. Now, you mentioned that the company's already listed on the TSX, so on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and it's also listed on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange as well. So you mentioned a little bit about the difficulty in terms of liquidity of raising capital in Toronto. But are there any other reasons for why Resouro is considering the ASX?
Well, we're looking at what I consider a major arbitrage between our valuation at 40 million Australian dollars and our nearest competitors, Brazilian Rare Earths at 700 million and Meteoric at 300 or 400 million. What we believe is that the Canadian market, there's a few elements that have kept the stock price quite low. Is the company was originally listed as a gold company. There has been not really any success stories in rare earths on the Canadian market. the Canadian investors don't understand rare earths, and they don't have anything to compare it to. Even our major shareholders in Canada, most of the registers already moved from Canada to Australia. But even our major shareholders in Canada, I really need to educate them on rare earths. And really, at the moment, if you've got a Canadian-based gold company with flow-through, share investment, people are able to raise money. And if there's particularly well-connected investors in Canada, they are able to raise money, but the majority of the market is really suffering. The difference here is that there's a lot of very educated investors in rare earths, and they can easily do the comparables between us and the various other projects which are in the market at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And talking about those, so there's a couple of Brazilian rare earths plays on the ASX, like Meteoric, for example, and Brazilian rare earths. You mentioned a differentiator being that you've got very high grade, and also it's almost like district scale, provincial scale type of project that could potentially be going into development. So what do you think are the key differentiators between Resouro coming onto the ASX and a couple of your competitors that we've just mentioned?
Well, the chief one is the titanium dioxide. What we're hoping and to go through with the economic studies is that we can mine and process and produce a titanium dioxide concentrate that would cover all our costs and make a profit. And therefore the rare earth elements are for free. What we're finding is when we do our resource calculation, I think people are going to be quite surprised at the tons and grade. So if it was just a standalone rare earths project, it would compare very well, but we have the titanium dioxide. So you've got a portfolio approach where you've got potentially 2 revenue streams. So the economics are very strong. And also where we're located, I know both the other 2 projects, they've got very good infrastructure, and we do have a railway line. We have 500 kVA power lines. We've got 3 townships within a short commuting distance to the project. So it's really an ideal place to develop a project.
That's great, Chris. Now, you're a bit of a mining veteran in the industry, and you've been in the industry for quite some time, Chris. Could you possibly run us through, a bit of your experience and your background?
Well, I mean, the principal experience that I've had that's applicable to this is that I've done 3 major bankable feasibility studies on large-scale projects. I'm a mining engineer by background. When I graduated in Australia, I worked in Ecuador for 2 years before doing an MBA in Europe, and then working in Perth in mining project finance for Rothschild. So most of my career has been in finance, and most of my career also has been in Latin America. But I was the founder and CEO of a company called Monte Rico Metals. We had a large-scale copper porphyry project in Peru. We acquired it in a very similar way to Tiros, where it had 18 drill holes in it. We drilled 70,000 meters, did a full bankable feasibility study using top-quality consultants, and then a Chinese company bid on us on the market. And that company went from 52p at listing to over £6, and was taken out at £3.50. So then I was involved as a founder and chairman of Asia Energy and a private coal company in British Columbia. So each of them did a bankable feasibility study. So this is the 4th one I'm doing, and Tiros is by far the largest and highest grade in project that I've been involved with. So I'm extremely excited about it.
Wow, that is huge and so exciting. But to finish off our chat today, Chris, would you mind giving us, 2 or 3 key investment highlights as to why Resouro should be on investors' stock watch list?
Well, Unfortunately, we were listed on the TSX-V and therefore we were priced in Canada. So our market cap on listing will be around 40 million Australian dollars. So investors just need to do their comparables. Of all our comparables are plus $100 million market caps, and some a multiple of that. So you're looking at the arbitrage, to take the arbitrage out of the market. And also the fact that we have a top quality, very large scale rare earths project, which is underwritten by very high grade titanium dioxide. And so I think from a risk perspective and an upside perspective, we've got two revenue streams potentially. And, we can produce as many tons as the market can take. So I think we're starting off at a very low base at this valuation. So really it's a matter of, seeking that revaluation when we list.
Fantastic, Chris. And now it all makes sense as to why the company is, or the public offer has been heavily oversubscribed, I'm sure, for our listeners.
We've had tremendous support here in Australia because, as soon as we presented the company here, people understood it and understood the value.
Yeah, and that's a big key takeout as well. Yeah, listing on the ASX, having a very well-informed investor base here in rare earths, but also in resources itself. Very strong retail understanding of this industry. Chris, just remind us again, what is the date of listing or potential listing?
We received a letter from the ASX today, and we believe that we can be listed by the 14th.
Okay, so Oh, very exciting. Really looking forward to seeing the Resouro light up the ASX boards on the 14th of June or there and thereabouts. Congratulations again, Chris, and it was wonderful to speak to you, and I hope we get you back on the show again soon to give us some more updates.
Okay, thank you very much, Jess. It was great talking to you.